O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, also one of the youngest head coaches in the NFL, was on with Rich Eisen. But following Sam Darnold's 4-0 start to the season with the Vikings, following Geno Smith, who even in a loss had a really good game, and for that matter, following Jared Goff, who was a perfect 18 for 18 for Detroit, it had a lot of people, including me, wondering about second, third, sometimes fourth, fifth stints for quarterbacks. And in particular, when failure is a quarterback's fault and when it lies with an organization. So first, let me take you back in time. Kevin O'Connell's answer to Rich Eisen about his team's investment in Sam Darnold.
I believe that organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations, and there's no specific example in my mind that I could give you of a team or a quarterback, but just overall 30,000-foot view, I think it's important to understand that every single one of these guys is on a journey, a very difficult journey, that they need the support, they need the teammates around them, they need the systems in place to ultimately try to maximize who they are and what their potential is, because you're still drafting players, Rich, off of potential. And then everything that happens from that moment to when that potential becomes a reality is really on the organization if you've got the right guy that you're bringing in. And then in regards to, I do believe there's some times where things just don't work out, and then getting a chance to kind of, wipe the slate clean and get a restart while still using your previous experiences to kind of shape, how you're going to work, why you're going to work, why things are important to you, will only make guys better in the end. And I think we've seen some examples of that in our league as well over the last few years.
There are some times, Kevin's right, when things just don't work out. Jared Goff, for instance, was drafted number 1 overall and secured the bag before being traded by the Rams. He was with a good team, a good head coach, a good system. It just wasn't right. It just wasn't a fit. That team felt like they would succeed more with the veteran arm that is Matthew Stafford, and they did, and Jared found success with Detroit. Other times, Bump, it feels like an organization failed. And I don't know, man, when I look at Sam Darnold and when I look at Geno, I kind of see it as, yes, there's responsibility they had, but part of their story was being with an organization that at one point failed them too.
The Jets. That's what they do.
Looking at you, Jets.
Sam, Geno, Zach. I mean,
anyone.
That's what they do for some reason. There's responsibility on both sides for sure, but I think the bulk of it goes on the organization to make sure that when you throw that young man out there, he's ready. Right, there are some guys who need a year or two to develop. That's why in college you have a redshirt year and you sit and you wait your turn. There's a reason why in college QBs will wait 2 or 3 years and just wait it out and say, okay, I'll get my 1 year, I'll get my 2 years, and I'll go ahead and do it, because playing quarterback is the hardest thing to do in sports, in my opinion. Skill-wise, there are other sports that have that, but as far as leading, playing the game, quarterback is tough to do because you're responsible for so much. So I think the bulk of the responsibility goes on the organization, because you're in constant evaluation mode. You're looking at him at practice, how he is in a weight room. Is he responsible off the field? Can he communicate? Can he lead? Like, there was nothing in me that thought that Bryce Young was going to get into the league and just be able to lead. And that's just me from the outside looking in. His personality and just the way he is. I was talking to Brock off air like last week, and I go, man, you know how it is in the locker room. It is like dog eat dog in that piece, man. It's the most masculine environment I've ever been in my life. And you have 65, 70 men in there, and they will sniff out fear. And as soon as they sniff it out, they no longer respect you. Yep. And it's almost, you can be a nice guy in this league and still have success, but that nice guy got to be able to be razor sharp, and you have to instill in your teammates, I know what's going on and I can get it done. And the guys who hold you accountable to make sure that you know what's going on and you can get it done are the coaches in the organization. If they just feel like we got to throw you out there because you're the number 1 pick, even though you're not ready, then it's on them. Now, if you set for a few years and you fool them into making you think that you're ready to go, ultimately it's going to be on you because you have to perform. So it's always a two-way street when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. In this situation here, when we're talking Sam Darnold, Geno, and Zach, it's an organizational thing, because now we see Sam Darnold at 4-0. We see Geno Smith at 3-1 looking good. Don't know where Zach is. Where is he at? Is he in Denver?
I think he's still in Denver.
He's in Denver? Okay, we'll see how that story pans out. But They got a common denominator, but I think that across the league, the organization has to make sure that the QB's ready.
I'm glad that you mentioned Bryce Young because as part of Kevin O'Connell's answer, he said, when you have a quarterback, you need to have a plan, no matter what it is. Your plan doesn't have to be that he starts. For instance, the Falcons' plan is not that Michael Penix Jr. start. It's to go with Kirk Cousins. Likewise, even though Sam Darnold's off to a great season, the plan all along for the Vikings may have been to rest J.J. McCarthy and just start. Whatever it is, though, whether he's sitting or starting, whether you're going to tailor your offense or take time building pieces, have a plan. And I see the Panthers as being a team that very clearly did not have a plan for Bryce Young because otherwise you would not have benched him 2 games into the season. You would have said, we have a plan. We're sticking with it. Maybe we're tailoring it. Maybe we're doing whatever, but we have a plan for this guy. Either you did not have a plan or you had a horrible one and gave up on it early. When you look at the kind of continuing this conversation, when you look at the top 10 passers, and this is basic just in terms of yards in the NFL this year, only 5 are with the team that actually drafted them. The rest have all moved on, and some of them never moved on after being, kind of down in the dumps. For instance, Matthew Stafford was never not the guy with Detroit. He just found a new opportunity with the Rams as part of that big trade. Right. And likewise, Jared Goff, had kind of fallen out of favor with the Rams, but he got paid. They just kind of decided, we need someone better. It's really not working out with Jared. They swap whatever. Baker Mayfield, though, is a story maybe a little more like Geno's, even though he had higher draft stock coming in. He was traded to Carolina and then benched and then cut in Carolina. Those are the stories that are really interesting to me. Like Sam Darnold fell from grace. Baker fell from grace. Mm-hmm. These are guys whose teams had given up on them. And frankly, who fans, including myself, had completely written off. And you just go, okay, we were wrong about this guy. And maybe we do that too early with quarterbacks. It makes me wonder what quarterbacks could have gotten second chances that didn't. And it makes me wonder whether or not it's ever possible. We know it is, but how likely it is that quarterbacks can tap into something a little bit later. Like Geno sat for 6 years. This was not a guy that had I was traded somewhere else and it worked out. This was a long journey.
I think guys like Geno, Baker, Sam, who sat for a while, still brought something to the table. They showed the organization, I can pick up a playbook, I can execute in practice. I might not be as talented as this rookie that you brought in, but I'm going to be here. There are guys who phase out because they just can't pick up the playbook. They're not good leaders. Yep. They don't have all these other things.
Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, obviously, right? And there are guys like Geno and the guys I just mentioned who have all these other pieces but just needed a little, you got to water them a little bit, let them grow. And if you can find that type of guy, that is invaluable because, one, you can bring in a young guy and have him sit for a little bit and learn from a veteran quarterback, or you bring in a young guy and that veteran quarterback is there to mentor him, and then if things go wrong, he's good to go. A good backup quarterback is almost as good as a good starting quarterback because at some point that quarterback is going to go down, or more than likely that quarterback's not going to work out. Most quarterbacks do not win Super Bowls, do not go to the playoffs and have these great careers and do all of that. That's the expectation. So having that backup plan is huge. That's why I say yesterday, one of the best things that the Hawks did after when signing or re-signing Russell Wilson and letting him go is keeping Geno. Bringing Geno in to back up Russell Wilson, seeing his 3 starts, he had 3 or 4 starts in that year where Russell was out, and believing in him and giving him that opportunity. So finding that backup quarterback is crucial, man. And I think that's why Bill Belichick said the Steelers have the best quarterback situation, when in reality I don't think he does, but I think he's looking at it as a sense, okay, if Justin Fields were to go down, you have a quarterback who can get her done. And he had that in New England. Yeah. He had Tom Brady, and then Matt Castle jumped in, played well, and went off and made himself some money. He had Drew Bledsoe, and then Tom Brady came in. So that's Jimmy G. That's what he's talking about is, all right, your number 2 is almost as important as your number 1. Not really, but in theory, he's right there.
I also find that it takes me, and I'm sure that fans, if you're listening, might feel the same way. Maybe not. It takes me a while to brush off the stereotype of what someone is. For instance, I still see Sam Darnold as being a more, chaotic passer than he actually is, even though he's performing very well. When Mike Golick Jr., we ended that conversation, and I said, I have a bone to pick with Mike Golick Sr., actually. It was only because I had found myself challenging my own ideas because of what he said. They were talking about which player is most key to their team's success on the season. I would immediately go, Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been absolutely phenomenal for the Bills this year, and that's what Mike Golick Jr. said as his answer. Mike Golick Sr. said, Sam Darnold. He's the only quarterback with double-digit touchdowns with 11. And to that, I had to pause and go, you know what? You're right. Because even though I'm sitting here preaching about, wow, look at quarterbacks with these second and third chances. How great is this? I don't know that I would have said, oh, well, obviously Sam Darnold is central to the Vikings' success. I would have put it on Justin Jefferson or Brian Flores' defense or whatever it is.
Because he's part of the forgotten.
Exactly.
He's not the brand new thing that's had success as soon as he stepped into the league.
And we love that hot new thing.
We love that, right? But that's who he is, and several other guys are. I mean, Baker Mayfield last year was considered during a span one of the best quarterbacks in the league for that year and during that span. It's because this is a young man's game, too. There's always some 22, 23-year-old that is getting his opportunity in the league who everyone wants to be the next greatest thing. Where I think people need to start shifting it towards at the quarterback spot. You don't have to be the next greatest thing. You just be pretty dang good. And you surround yourself with some pieces, or the organization surrounds you with pieces, then you can get things done. Everyone's looking for Brady. Everyone's looking for Mahomes. Everyone's looking for what they've seen in the past, when what we've seen other than Brady and Mahomes is like, you can win with a Nick Foles. You could be competitive. So I think the league is shifting. I think that they're starting to see that the all-pro type quarterback is awesome to have, and of course you want that, but you can win ball games with just a good quarterback if you have pieces.